and a very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all the participants and our speaker, Mr. John Fyfe here today. This is Bakhtaver Mahmood, and I'm going to moderate today's session, which is about the business survival during the corona pandemic, COVID-19. So this pandemic has made more than 46 million people lose their jobs, and a lot of businesses are affected. So the COVID-19 situation, it's worsening day by day in Pakistan, and the country has crossed more than 180,000 cases. During this second week of June, there were more than 80,000 plus deaths and 80 plus deaths per day and 5,000 cases every day. So many small and large scale businesses, they were affected, and their operations have been affected, which eventually led to the unemployment of many people. Even the government of Pakistan, it had to lay off a lot of people. So as all the small businesses and big businesses, they as well as the employees, they're all affected here. So AIIA, which is the Asian Institute of Industrial Air, it's working to bring employable skills to everyone through its online courses, and it's also giving hands-on training in its specialized classrooms. So first of all, I would like to divert your attention to a brief introduction of AIIA, which is organizing today's seminar with Mr. John Fyfe. So I would like to start the presentation with today's introduction about AIIA, what it actually does. So AII empowers and people to realize their potential. It's worth mentioning over here that it is the only institute in Pakistan that is addressing the compressed air engineering and manufacturing skills. So the training programs which AIIA offers at the moment includes the industrial air engineering, factory automation, and production engineering. The services at the moment AIIA is offering includes the training of industry professionals, also training of the fresh graduates from universities and colleges, and it also provides customized trainings as per the requirements and also opportunities as the resource persons. So from here, I would like to take it up to the introduction of our today's speaker, Mr. John Fyfe. Mr. John has qualified in the electrical and electronic engineering in 1982, and then he went on to work in the energy sector with the Babcock Power and GEC Alstom. So following the assignments in Zimbabwe, India, Hong Kong, and China, he returned to UK to complete his MBA at Durham University in 1992. So this also led to a career in business development, and he held the positions such as President European Operations at the Magneco Metro Global Sales Director Dominic Hunter Gas Generation Division, Global VP Sales and Marketing Zebek Inc., and most recently as Regional Distribution Manager for Gardner Denver and Ingersoll Rand. So John has lived in 9 different countries and has visited more than 80 other countries on business throughout his career. So he's married with the 2 sons and has moved to Middle East in 2012, where he has been involved in developing business with this region ever since. So John, welcome on board. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I hope that the situations in your part are very much fine, and you and your family are safe from the current wave of corona pandemic.
Thank you. Yes, everybody is well, and I think like everybody around the world, we are just trying to make the best of the situation and hoping that it will be over and done with very soon.
All right. So before I start my session and question answers from John Fyfe, I would request all our participants that if they have any sort of questions from Mr. John or probably around this whole topic, they can send us their questions in the chat box. We will take a couple of questions at the end of this discussion so that we will be able to highlight a few important questions which are relevant to today's introduction. So just leave your questions down below. This stream is going live on many different platforms as well. I would request you to please share that as well. So John, without wasting any further time, I would like to ask you the first question of today's discussion, that corona pandemic, it has very badly affected businesses in Pakistan. So what impact it has in your part of the world?
I think Corona has affected businesses the world over. What has been interesting to see is how the different governments have reacted, such as the introduction of the furlough scheme in the UK and the creation of a 750 billion euro fund in Europe to help small and medium-sized enterprises start back up afterwards. But government help is by no means enough and will not solve the whole problem. Businesses themselves must take action. And I've been fascinated to watch in my country examples such as the Formula One teams redirecting their technical resources to the production of much needed ventilators for the National Health Services, delivery companies such as Deliveroo diversifying into grocery deliveries for the elderly and vulnerable. And even, if I may say, the school that my youngest son goes to, where their art and design facilities have been used to produce much needed personal protective equipment. The business landscape has changed, and flexibility and openness must be taken on board. New ideas will be critical if businesses are to survive. So, you know, I think that everywhere business is now being affected by this terrible disease.
So, John, what is the first thing the business owners can do to sustain in this current situation?
Well, given the current situation, I believe that business owners must stay positive. They've got to stay flexible, but equally, they've also got to be realistic about the situation.
Yeah.
They've got to understand, as I've mentioned in my previous answer, that there are opportunities, even in these difficult times, although they may not be the obvious ones and the traditional ones that businesses have become accustomed to. They must look after their employees. They must remember when this is all over that they will be looking to their employees to hit the ground running and to start generating that revenue that has been lost for their businesses. They must ask employees and embrace their feedback on what they have experienced during these difficult times. For instance, you know, a lot of people are now working from home, but the question will be whether or not working from home becomes the new normal, and if indeed it is acceptable for everybody. There are challenges that many families have with working from home, but it might be right for some people moving forward. And what I would urge everyone to remember is that these difficult times are here not to obstruct, but to instruct. If we can take on board what is happening now and learn from it, then we will emerge from it stronger and in a better position to drive our businesses forward.
All right, great. So now, John, I'm moving on to a very important question that needs a very elaborative answer to it. That what are the keys to success for businesses under such challenges? And I would like you to give particular reference to the team building and your special advice in challenging times like this.
Well, I think there are a number of short and long-term areas that I suggest companies need to look at right now. First of all, companies must select and let go of processes and activities which drain working capital. And they must do all that they can to preserve liquidity. We've got to remember that during these situations, cash is king. Got to abort old and embrace new working methods, such as working from home, which I've already mentioned. Video and remote conferencing like we're experiencing today. We must recognize the important aspects of your business, the processes, but in my mind, most importantly, we must take on board the attitudes of our staff and our people. In order to prepare our people for success and for what is coming ahead, I would now like to share with you, if I may, a short story. This is the story, basically, as it says here, success is a journey. For any business, be it in Pakistan or elsewhere, irrespective of whether it is in the textile industry or some other sector, The only thing that makes it unique is its staff. The product it produces or sells can always be copied and generally can be made cheaper by somebody else. To succeed, therefore, businesses must inevitably focus on finding ways to make their employees successful, to make them the best they can be. So as I've said, in my opinion, the focus should therefore switch from what makes a company successful to what makes an employee successful. And successful employees will inevitably lead to a successful company. So what are, in fact, the keys to success? The keys to success, well, about 20 years ago, I listened to a presentation from a very wide and wealthy man who had spent his whole life studying the reasons for success and had finally reached a clear and concise reason for success in both life and business. This gentleman was a Canadian gentleman whose name was Brian Tracy. And what he said was simple, and I've taken it on board, and I hope that I live my life in this way. The most important thing is to set a goal. Whatever that is, set a goal and stay with it until you achieve some form of success in respect to that goal. Having achieved that success, your subconscious mind will then take that success and create a pattern and will drive that repeat behavior time and time again. In other words, nothing quite succeeds like success. You see, goals and are the key to it all. And what is a goal? Well, a goal can be anything. It can, but it has to be measurable and it has to be time bound. Certain examples, it could be financial. I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. They could be professional. I want to be a CEO before I retire. I want to be number one in the market within 5 years. I want to go to university when I'm 18. I want to grow my business by 10% this year. It could be personal. I want to play cricket for Pakistan or for England by the time I'm 18. I want to own a house in Clifton, or maybe something more realistic for myself. I want to lose 15 kilograms by the end of July. The thing, though, about goals and why we set them is, one, they define success or failure. If I don't lose my 15 kilograms by July, I've failed. They allow us to see where we are in relation to that goal, so we can track our level of success. They provide a sense of achievement. The feeling that you get when you succeed, it is something that there is no other feeling like. They define who we are. The people we often will turn around and admire somebody who has been successful. They provide a measure of us against others. They determine company strategy. But most important, they create performance. And to me, the fact that they drive performance is exactly why generally people are scared of them. The truth is, though, that goals are with us throughout our daily lives, wherever we are. And the idea and the truth of setting goals can be seen when on travels. And in this respect, very often a journey, a holiday we go on, or a business journey can be a metaphor for life. It was Brian Tracy's first journey that was exactly that, a metaphor for life, and much, much more. You see, the goal that Brian set and the journey that he took, in my mind, encapsulates the keys to success in life. The year was 1963, and he, plus 3 friends, had just finished high school, and like many teenagers, decided that they wanted to see the world. They had been working in sawmills, and a lot of their friends were heading to Europe to backpack. But Brian wanted to do something different. So together with 3 close colleagues, he decided that they should go to Africa. They had never heard of anyone going to Africa. So that is where they set their sights. It never crossed their mind why nobody else went to Africa. And in some respects, that was their first big mistake. After working and saving for a year, the 4 of them jumped into an old car and set out from Vancouver on the west coast of Canada, bound for Montreal on the east, and a passage to London. They were 20 years old, they hadn't a care in the world, and they were off on their adventure. You see, every great adventure starts with an act of faith, like driving into the dark, into the unknown. And this is the first key to success. In a way, nature protects us by shielding us from knowledge of the difficulties that lie ahead. After all, if we knew all of the obstacles we would face, the suffering, the difficulties and failures we would encounter, many of us would hesitate about starting at all and wouldn't take that first step. The plan was to drive across country, a distance of approximately 3,000 miles, get jobs on a ship to cross the Atlantic to London, a further 2,500 miles, and then travel through Europe to Gibraltar, 1,500 miles before heading through Africa to Johannesburg, 7,000 miles to the south. A total journey distance of somewhere in the region of 13,500 miles, and one that would take them roughly 12 months to do and take them through 14 countries and 3 continents. After only the first part of the journey, one of the 4 gave up altogether. The remaining 3 pleaded with the 4th, telling him that if he quit now, then quitting would become a habit for life. And here we see the second key to success. Never contemplate failure. If you always quit when the going gets tough, then you will in fact establish a pattern for failure rather than a pattern for success. At this stage, all they had was a single piece of paper with Europe and Africa all on the same map. And it didn't seem too difficult to go from the top to the bottom. They sort of just drew a straight line from north to south and reckoned that if they followed that, then it would be okay. Oh yes, there was a light-colored band across the top of Africa called the Sahara Desert. But they thought they would just skip right over that and get to the green bit below. They didn't stop to wonder what the Sahara Desert actually was, or that the journey was almost 7,000 miles. You see, they were what we call big picture people. They didn't let themselves get bogged down in the details. They were young and hadn't learned the third key to success, that it is the details that get you every single time. So they took a train to Dover, crossed over to France, and there they bought bicycles. They soon discovered that when you ride a bicycle across France, it seems like the hills are all uphill and the wind is always in your face. Likewise, when you embark on any new adventure or business venture, you often find the same thing. Everything seems to go wrong at just the worst point in time and in the worst possible way. Eventually, they crossed into Gibraltar, where they sold the bikes and bought a Land Rover. So now they had exhausted their meager funds and didn't have enough money for provisions or fuel. So they started writing letters. How to get funds. They started writing and contacting everybody that they knew, asking for money, telling them how desperate their situation was and how they were on the brink of despair. Eventually, they got a little bit of money here and a little bit there. Then suddenly, they got a big score. Completely out of the blue, one of their uncles, who they had only ever met once, sent them a wire transfer for £100. Now, that was $300 or the equivalent of over $1,000 today. They were saved. And the fourth key to success was demonstrated. Nobody ever does it alone. We all need help from others to get over the rough spots on the journey of life. With money now available, they stocked up with provisions and headed over to Tangier and out towards the Atlas Mountains. 20 miles out, the radiator blew up. You see, the Land Rover that they had bought had never been out of Gibraltar and had never been driven on the open road. Over the next 10 days, the steering rods bent and threw the front wheels out of alignment. They suffered multiple blowouts and they had trouble with the carburetor and the ignition system. They were so poorly equipped, they didn't even have a jack or a wheel spanner. So every time they had a problem, they had to sit by the road on the side of the car waiting for another vehicle to come along to help. But they pressed on anyway, deeper and deeper into the Atlas Mountains and onto the Sahara Escarpment, where they encountered a world that had changed very little in over 1,000 years. There were long stretches of country roads with nothing on either side for miles and miles. Very occasionally, they would come across an oasis. And it was in one such oasis, as they made their slow trek across Morocco, that someone asked them where they were going. Across the Sahara and into Africa, they boldly stated. Oh no, you can't do that. You'll die in the desert. Now they began to hear this every time they met somebody. Here are the young men who are going to die in the desert. Now these were Bedouin desert people who were saying this. Now these are people who knew what they were talking about. And so they learned another valuable lesson in the way of life. Whenever you try to do something out of the ordinary, people will always line up to tell you why you cannot do it. That you will lose your time, your money, that you will in effect die in the desert. Even people who should know better will try to discourage you. If you want to succeed at anything worthwhile, you must train yourself to rise above such people, to ignore them, and to press on towards your goal regardless. They reached the edge of the desert and by this time had again run out of money and were suffering from disease and fatigue. In many respects, they had actually forgotten why they were even there, other than the fact that they had set themselves a goal and they had to carry on. Now they were officially in the Sahara. Well, the Sahara. The Sahara is the largest desert on Earth. It covers approximately 1/3 of North Africa and has an area of 3.5 million square miles. It has the hottest recorded temperature on Earth at nearly 60 degrees centigrade, and at night, the temperature can fall by over 40 degrees centigrade. From Marrakesh in the north to Selil in the south is 500 miles of nothing. Not a blade of grass, nor water of any kind, just sand. More than 1,500 people have perished trying to cross that strip of land in the last 20 years. The enormity of what they had embarked upon finally began to sink in. For 3 weeks, they stayed in Al-War, preparing themselves and their transport. They got themselves back to fitness and kitted the Land Rover out with extra fuel and water tanks. You see, it's amazing how enterprising and hardworking you become when your survival is at stake. The Sahara in June is hot. How hot? Well, very, very hot. At midday, it reaches 55 degrees centigrade, and an exposed man can die of dehydration in less than 20 minutes. When the French ran Algeria, they required travelers to take 5 gallons of water per person per day for the crossing. That is how much water you will drink. Because of the heat, you can only travel between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10 a.m. The midday sun is so hot, it can fry your engine oil so that it becomes so thin that your engine will seize and never ever run again. 6 weeks after crossing from Gibraltar, they were ready to go. They knew that if anything broke and they were unable to fix it, they would most certainly die in the desert. Just before the off, they met some Germans who were also attempting the crossing. Thinking that there would be safety in numbers, they decided to all go together. They set off on a Thursday afternoon following La Piste, which is a French word for track. This was a very accurate description of the narrow strip of road that headed out of Alwar and straight south across the desert. They drove through the night, and after about only 50 miles, their troubles began. The Germans' vehicle kept getting bogged down in the sand, and they would have to pull it out with their four-wheel drive. All of this rescuing started to delay them hour after hour. They had to get across the 500 miles in 2 days, or they would run out of water. So they pressed on as fast as they could, but over and over again, the Germans' vehicle would get stuck and have to be rescued, losing them time and also using up precious resources of fuel. By morning, they had only covered 150 miles, and they were all exhausted and a bit tense. They had covered less than 1/3 of the required distance, and yet had consumed 50% of the time. They had reached an abandoned army base where they had originally intended on taking refuge, but had to change plan and carry on to counter the lack of features in the terrain. The French had marked the track with black 55-gallon oil drums, 5 miles apart, which is exactly the distance to the horizon where the earth curved away as you crossed that flat wasteland. Because of this, wherever you were in the daytime, they could see 2 oil barrels, the one that they had just passed and the one 5 miles ahead. And that was enough. All they had to do was to steer towards the next oil barrel. As a result, they were able to cross the biggest desert in the world by simply taking it 1 oil barrel at a time. Taking this into another context, I believe you can achieve almost any goal you set yourself by breaking it down into smaller, more manageable tasks. If you go as far as you can see, you will then see far enough to go further. Now, the sun really became the enemy. It sat on the horizon like a big evil cat, but on and on they went. The temperature got hotter and hotter. Eventually, at about 9:30, it had reached 53 degrees and the vehicles began coughing and stalling. They had to stop. For 6 hours, they sat in the cars as the temperature continued to rise. Eventually, at about 4:30 in the afternoon, the temperature started to fall to a point where the engines would start, and they made a dash for it. The German van again got stuck, but now they were racing the clock. They knew that they had to get to the other side before the midday sun hit, as water supplies were almost out. They pressed on, but the German vehicle was slowing them down. Eventually, with about 30 miles to go, they abandoned the Volkswagen and loaded everyone into the Land Rover. They reached Sahel just as the sun reached its highest point. They had done it. They had crossed the Sahara, but they were all aware just how close they had come to dying in the desert. I won't tell you the rest of the story about how they finally reached Johannesburg, but rather consider the 7 keys to success that enabled these young men to tackle the largest desert in the world. So, the first key was to decide upon a goal and launch. Take action, get started, do something. If you never take that first step, you will never achieve anything. You must take the step. Even if you fail, take another step, take another step. You will never reach success without having taken that first step. Never consider the possibility of failure. Always forward, never back. You know, if winning can become a habit, then so can losing. I follow cricket a little bit in my in my private life, and I often hear of people saying, the team has that winning feeling to it. The batsmen know when they go out that they're going to succeed. You know, I also know that in a golfing environment, I remember Jack Nicklaus, one of the best golfers of all time, saying that he had never missed a 3-foot putt. Well, he has clearly missed the 3-foot putt, but in his own mind, he does not believe that he can miss a 3-foot putt. Never consider the possibility of failure. If you do, it will become a pattern that will then repeat itself and repeat itself. The only time that you will ever have is now. Live today, every hour, the best you can, and the rest will take care of itself. Tackle the tasks one barrel at a time. Watch out for the naysayers. Get around positive people. Fly with the eagles. Refuse to listen to objections as to why you cannot do something. Surround yourself with people who believe that you will be able to do it. This is one of the primary keys for success in an individual. We must also understand that obstacles and difficulties are as valuable and inevitable steps on the ladder of success. There will always be obstacles. There will always be things that will happen that will knock us off course. But we must remember that these difficulties come not to obstruct, but to instruct. The fact that Mr. Tracy's vehicle broke down going from Gibraltar to Alware allowed them to learn and to understand and to prepare themselves for their greater journey across the Sahara Desert. Be clear about your goals. Understand the goals. You know, in today's business environment, we will all have started our companies at the beginning of the year with goals in respect to whether it be turnover or profitability or new products that were going to be developed. No one knew in November or December that this pandemic was going to hit. But those goals are still valid. All that we have to do is understand that we maybe have to be a bit more flexible as to how we achieve those goals. Be willing to change. Try something new. Being flexible is a key quality of peak performance. Don't be afraid to seek and accept feedback. Remember, it's not what you have, but it's what you do with what you have that separates the winners from the losers. And arguably, the most important, nobody ever succeeds alone. It doesn't matter what the task is. It doesn't matter whether it's in business or in a private life. We all need people around us. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a mark of weakness, asking for help. Asking for help is a mark of strength and courage and character. And also, don't be afraid to give of yourself to others, as that is a mark of caring, compassion, and personal greatness. As a final thought, the reason for telling this story is that I believe we all have a Sahara to cross. And indeed, in these times, maybe more so than ever before. Perhaps some of you listening to this are going through your own Sahara right now. No matter what, eventually everyone goes through periods of great difficulty, your own private hell, their own dark nights of the soul. But it is by facing whatever life throws at us that we grow more surely towards the stars. So, if you will resolve, no matter what obstacles appear in front of you, to carry on, then there is nothing that can stop you, not even the coronavirus, from achieving the greatness for which you were all created. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for such a captivating story. I think we all can relate that all of us are, yes, still surviving in this Sahara Desert of our own. And it's very important for us to be positive in this situation. And it's very important that we all work together. It's not letting people live on their own, and helping each other and surviving through this tough time is really important for all of us. So thank you, John, for this. Taking the advantage of the presence of our very respectable chairman for the Rastgar group of companies, Mr. Imtiaz Rastgar. If I can request him to please join us and share a few thoughts about this discussion.
Bakhtavar, thank you very much. It's very nice to hear John's thoughts, and exactly, as a seasoned business person, he has put, his finger on all the important points. And like he has mentioned, it's very important for us to remain positive, look out for some things, some opportunities where we have so far not ventured, but which are just peripheral. I'm not suggesting that we should start a new business as such, but around us, whatever we are doing, there is another way of doing the same business or delivering the same service, maybe to the next door customer, maybe to some customer somewhere else in the world. So I think there is a lot of opportunity in this thing. It forces us to sit down and think. So I think John has brought a lot of wisdom to us. And I hope that people like me and other listeners, they can benefit from this. Thank you very much for having me with you.
Thank you so much, sir. Before I conclude today's session, I would request the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of AIIA, Dr. Arshad Ali. I would like to introduce over here that Dr. Arshad is the recipient of Sitara Imtiaz and Pride of Performance from Government of Pakistan. He has completed his PhD from the United States of America and has served as the Executive Director of HEC Pakistan. He has been the Vice Chancellor of National Textile University, Faisalabad, Dean NUST Islamabad, and Pakistan Air Force. So, Dr. Arshad Ali, I welcome you aboard for your vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Bakhtavar. It was a very, very interesting talk. And I would like to ask John, that you have been visiting Pakistan quite frequently, and you have been conducting seminars over here. So based on your experience, is there any personal advice you would like to share for the businesses in Pakistan?
Thank you, Mr. Ali. I mean, you're right. I've been very fortunate to have visited Pakistan on many occasions, and have met a lot of very nice and friendly people. I just keep coming back, sir, to the points. One, we cannot get away from the fact that we are in difficult times. There are terrible tragedies happening to people. So, on one hand, one has to understand that it is traumatic periods for many people. But we have to stay positive, and we have to understand that if we stay positive, there are opportunities. As I say, I mean, I think in the business that I'm in, with the industrial products, whilst people may not be currently buying new products in the same extent that they perhaps were, people are keeping existing products going longer. So there is a different part of the business that has an opportunity now. So service and and maintaining existing product becomes a much bigger part of the business than maybe selling brand new products. I think that being flexible, understanding, Mr. Imtiaz mentioned, we're not necessarily talking about starting brand new businesses, but we do have to look at other maybe non-traditional areas for our business. And if our staff remain positive, and if we train our staff, and if we listen to our staff, then they will be there for us when business returns to whatever the new normal may happen to be.
Thank you. We have Dr. Rauf with us. He has asked, the biggest challenge is to deal with negative people. And in Pakistan, even media is the most negative thing you come across. They shed negativity all around. So what is your advice in this regard?
I would stop listening to the news. I'd stop listening to the media, and I say that living here in Dubai, I was switching on the television and listening to the news from the UK, and I identified with exactly what was being said. Every day the news was about more people who were suffering from this, that the terrible things that the NHS were unable to cope, that people were unable, weren't getting the protective equipment, and very little was actually being said about the good things that were happening. So I actually stopped listening, and in the story that I recounted, there is the bit where these 4 people were being told that they were going to die in the desert, that they couldn't possibly succeed, and they were being told this by so-called experts. But you've got to put them to one side. You've got to surround yourself with positive people and fly like an eagle, soar above it all. Don't take on the negative things. Believe in yourself. We've all got an inner strength that goes way beyond what most people see. So understand that they are there. Understand that the news is there. But maybe the news is being portrayed as being negative for somebody else's benefit and not our benefit. So fly with the eagles is how I would answer that question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. John has been frequent visitor, and in our circle we call John as Pakistani because he has been visiting so frequently in difficult times, and there have been many people advising him that the environment is not good, it is very dangerous, but still he has been visiting Pakistan. So that proves his faith in discrediting the negative people. So this is one of the picture we had taken with John, where he was delivering a seminar and also visited Sahara Chemical. Then I must appreciate and thank John for establishing Center of Excellence in Compressed Air in Pakistan. This is a unique facility, I would say, in all over the world, because it is an industry standard Center of Excellence, which has been established at National Textile University. And John has been one of the key contributors in donating the equipment, arranging and convincing the Gardner Denver, now Ingersoll, that this is important for Pakistan and the university as well as industry. So, John, can you share some thoughts on this Center of Excellence, please?
Mr. Ali, I was very privileged to be at the inauguration ceremony in Faisalabad, where the whole of the AIIA program was really being launched, and I remember stating at the time that, you know, for the businesses to succeed, the most important thing is education, 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 as one of the prime ministers in the UK once said. And so, you know, for Ingersoll Rand to be a part of this center of excellence, and for our company to be able to donate, you know, some products, it is I think a small step in what will hopefully be a very well used part of the courses that that you offer. And if the students who pass through there learn a little bit more and understand a little bit more, then they will be better served to add value to whatever industry they may go to. And ultimately, if the industries can succeed, then that in itself will help the country and help the general population. So, you know, I don't want to overstate it, but you know, education is the key. It's the only thing, in my opinion, that really matters. And you know, given the situation we're in today, we maybe have to learn in a different way. So I hope that the students enjoy the facility. I hope they have fun, and I hope that they learn something as well from it.
Thank you very much. Actually, compressed air is a subject which is very little understood, but it hit very badly as far as the energy consumption in the industry is concerned. And I'm sure this will add a lot of value to industry in Pakistan. So I thank you, AIA, Rafgar group of companies, especially the air compressor division, Ingersoll Rand, Compare, who have been very instrumental in in this seminar, as well as the Center of Excellence in Compressed Air. And I'm also thankful to you, John. And I'm sure this is not the first knowledge sharing session we have. We will look forward to your more wisdom and experience. And I truly enjoyed today's session and learned quite a lot. So thank you very much. And once again, I thank all the participants for their participation. The recorded session of this webinar will be available on AIA website, as well as the link will be shared with all the participants. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arshad. And thank you, John, for having such fruitful discussion. It was a pleasure having you on board with us. I would also like to thank the participants. We have got an exceptional number of participants for this conversation as well. And I hope that we continue to conclude such more sessions in future as well. So before we proceed to the end of our today's session, I would give you a brief analysis of what was the conclusion of this discussion. It's about adapting to the new trainings. It's about adapting to the new communication challenges and communication channels available for you in order to survive during this. So what AII is offering at the moment are a few platforms, few trainings for you, for the individuals and for the companies as well, which you can take benefit from. These are the online courses available, and a few guidelines are also available on all our platforms. That includes the Facebook, LinkedIn, and other Instagram as well. You can visit our website, and as Sir said, that the recording of this whole video is also available in the chat box link. It will also be shared. It's also going live on different platforms as well. We would love to have you there. So you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well. And with that, there is a feedback link available in the chat box as well. We would love to listen to whether this whole webinar has concluded some positive points in your memory, and would love to listen to your feedback. And I hope that we continue to work on a similar pattern. So taking the view on this. So thank you all for being here. It was a pleasure having you all, and let's hope that we continue to work like this. Take care and Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.